What is up, y'all? Welcome to yet another session of Diaries of a New DM. This time, I am testing out this neat little external mic
Welcome to The Price is Right.
that I got to take to Origins. So if the audio quality is kind of crappy, just bear in mind that it will only be crappy for this video. We're talking about session 7. I think it's session 7. I think I lost track somewhere between session 2 and 6. I'm calling it session 7. That's where we're at. Before we get into what I learned from running this session, I will catch you guys back up with where we are. The company actually did finish Harlan's Gambit, which was a funhouse dungeon based off of Mutaman's challenge in Neverwinter Nights, like the OG Neverwinter Nights. They beat it with flying colors, but one of the things that I did was in between floor 2 and 3, I had them get another kind of waking dream slash vision of what might happen in the future, and then they moved on and finished floor 3, the final floor of the challenge. Like I said, there was a couple things I wanted to talk about that I learned from this session, and I think I learned from the previous session because I did give myself enough time to plan. Albeit, I still didn't start planning until like Friday afternoon, but at least it wasn't at like 10 p.m. on Friday. I gave myself enough time to actually determine what it is I wanted to do, loot, enemies, traps, all that kind of stuff, and I feel like the gameplay went just a little smoother this time, and maybe that's just me noticing it because I'm the one building the game. I don't know. The guys seem to enjoy it. One thing I did want to talk about is conflict resolution. I think it was Matt Colville, he had a video on that. If you have 2 or more players that are in contention with each other, they don't agree on something, or they're a little annoyed at each other, what he suggests is to table it, discuss it after the game. That way it doesn't derail it for everybody else. It can kind of stay on track. You may not agree with how each other is playing, but you can address that later and for future sessions. And that is exactly what my players did. We finally had our first little spat in our game. I am super proud of how they handled it. Basically, a little bit of tension came about. Anyways, there was some tension. It was quick between 2 guys, and they kind of said a few words about it, and then I was like, all right, why don't we move on? And they let it drop, and then we talked about it, after the game. Without a doubt, you get more than a few people, even when it's 2 people together to regularly hang out and play games, tension is bound to happen. Arguments are bound to arise. But the way they handled it speaks volumes about who they are as people and who they are as players. Anyway, so that was one thing. I wouldn't necessarily say I learned, but it was something that has been talked about in the DM tips and tricks videos and stuff like that. I just wanted to put that out there that they handled that amazingly. Other than that, let's see, one of the other things I wanted to talk about, balancing. So everywhere from balancing the challenge of the creatures or people or things that they're fighting, all the way to balancing even the loot that they get, has been something, I wouldn't say an issue for me, but it is an art. I've given the players some very overpowered things that I've had to nerf because I wanted them to have a cool item, but they're still, they just hit level 4. I gave them level 4 after they completed the challenge. A lot of monsters, I want them to be able to fight even when they're lower level, because in real life, the monsters wouldn't care or know what level you are, and the dungeons wouldn't know or care what level you are. And so I want it to feel more like a rich world environment. I don't want them to fight sewer rats all the way up to level 6. I want them to be able to fight elementals. I want them to be able to fight minotaurs and cool stuff like that. So I've had to nerf a lot of enemies, which is fine. There are times where I've noticed I've either nerfed things too much or not quite enough. I'm still trying to get to where I can tell what, or at least put something in the ballpark of what would be a good challenge, but not too much. I think, though, for me, magical items is probably the hardest thing for me to balance. And I'll give you an example. I found a homebrew, and I say homebrew, I'm sure there's a lot of other D&D sanctioned items that fit this description, but one of our players, he's a paladin, and he rocks a, like pole arms. He has got a halberd or, poleaxe. I gave him a poleaxe. It was called Bloodbound, and it was found as a reward for completing that funhouse dungeon, or Harlan's Gambit as we call it. The description I put in my notes was it's 1d10 not plus anything, but just 1d10, but the user heals for half damage every hit. And I'm sorry, dude, if you're watching this, but on the fly, I thought that is freaking crazy for a level 4. At least I think so. That's insane. I mean, if you're playing a video game, that's one thing, but every single hit you heal for half damage, that's kind of crazy. So on the fly, I appended at the end of the sentence, I was like, once per day. So once per day, he can land a hit and it will heal him for half damage. I say once per day, I think once per long rest. And I feel like for a level 4 paladin, that's a little more fair. I also gave him the choice of what hit could do that. So if he lands a critical hit, or natural 20, he can heal for a lot of damage. He can choose that, because if it's just the first hit, chances are when he makes his first hit, in a lot of fights, he's either healed or mostly healed, so it kind of defeats itself. So I gave him the opportunity, once per long rest, he can choose which hit will heal him for half damage. But I had to make some of that up on the fly because, man, originally I was like, that's pretty crazy. And that being said, a lot of my ideas and balancing things and stuff like that, I get from video games. So whereas, like I said, in Neverwinter Nights, you may find that earlier on, something like that, is that, vampiric regeneration, something, whatever. For D&D, it's completely different. It may not work that way, or it may be a little too OP earlier on. So anyways, that's pretty much the things that I learned this week. Again, this week I will be at Origins. I love tabletop games. Obviously, I'm getting into D&D. I really want to start another section on this channel where I do common reviews of video games, not in-depth, not looking from a board game expert's viewpoint, but just the common consumer. Because honestly, when it comes to a lot of games, that's still what I am. I'm a common consumer of board games, and I want to answer one question for each game at least. Main question is this game fun? I'd like to do that, and I think I'm going to kick that off with Origins this week. I'm leaving Wednesday. Right now, I have appointments booked up almost all day Thursday to meet with game developers and publishers and all that kind of stuff. Little old me, man. They gave me a press pass, so I'm super excited to talk with them, as well as stream. I'm going to be walking around the convention floor. I'll be streaming mobily. If you guys are at all interested in that, please check out the videos that I make. They'll be coming out next week, and stay tuned on Twitch. My Twitch channel is twitch.tv/TapRackBang. You veterans and gun nuts will know what that means. Check that out, twitch.tv/TapRackBang. I should be live almost every day, Wednesday through Saturday this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you liked it, please smash that thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button. That helped me out. I am trying to pander for subscriptions, at least till I get to 100 subs, so we can have that shiny, nifty little custom URL. Thank you guys for listening to me ramble. I will see you probably in 2 weeks, because we're not doing another D&D session this Saturday because I'll be at the convention. So I'll see you when I see you, and peace.